This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going all the way to Rome, where one of the things we'll be doing is putting on a show. We'll be using beasts and warriors and gladiators to try to make people happy watching a show. We'll also be trying to control different provinces, and we'll be trying to gather senators' influence. We're talking about Rome, Rise to Power. This is from Golden Egg Games. It's 2 to 4 players, plays in 60 minutes or less. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In Rome Rise to Power, the game is 5 rounds long, scoring in rounds 3 and 5, and you'll be doing that by moving up different tracks and doing some little area control on the board. The game has multiple phases in each round. At the beginning of the first phase, everyone will roll their dice. They will never change these right now, and then basically they'll add them all up. Whoever has the smallest sum will essentially be first player turn order. And so if yellow had the smallest, then blue, and then purple, and if they're tied, they stay the same from previous rounds. And in the second phase, people will be placing 1 die at a time. The lead player goes first, who has this big sword, and they'll be placing it on one of these 3 tracks: military, senate, or black market. The military track's going to allow you to gain certain areas on the board, along with trying to mate up different icons with some of your senate people. The different senators will allow you to get different special abilities and try to match certain icons on the military cards. In the black market, you'll be getting beasts and gladiators and certain die for warriors to try to get some, set collection and some poker type hands. Now I'm going to show you how the bidding works in this game, because it's a dice bidding game. And on your turn, you're basically placing 1 die, and there's 3 different tracks, and the bidding works the same on each of the tracks, where you're going to place a die. If no one's there yet, you will place that die on the leftmost spot. If somebody else wants to go there, if they bid, they have to go in the next spot, but if they bid lower than your first die, they actually swap, because the lowest first die of anybody is going to go to the left. If the yellow player now came in here and they placed a 3, they would then swap with the 4 like that. Now later on, if blue wanted to play another die, they can only place a die that's equal or less than the furthest die to the right in their section. So right now, they could place another 2 here. And then later on, if they really wanted to place another die, they could place a 2 or a 1 here. And so that's how that sort of works with the bidding and figuring out who has, the turn order of getting these. Now, once everyone has placed all their dice, each of these sections are going to be resolved. You'll add up all the power. So this is 2, 4, 5. This guy has 3. This guy has 4. Now, these guys probably would have placed other dice, because in this specific track, what you can see is that this is the cost of these cards. They all cost 5. So the other players probably would have placed another die here to make sure they have at least 5. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to buy anything. And so this is the most interesting part of this game, is this whole bidding, where you got to bid low with your first die to try to be the first person to act, but that means you have to spend a lot of die to get a lot of power, because you can only use that die or lower as you add more dice, where these guys have more buying power, and maybe they could have used a higher die first, and they have been able to buy maybe more than one of these. So when this goes, this player gets to, even though he's in front of this card, he can buy any of these. He gets first choice. He can spend all of this. He only has 5, so he'd buy 1, but if he had 10 or more here, he could buy as many of these as he can afford. So sometimes people that are in last place here might not get to buy anything, even though they've spent their die. So let's say this player takes this place here. And it was the blue player who had the dice to buy this. And he basically takes his little archway and puts it on this location. So right here, he's going to be putting on here. I'll tell you what these sort of do towards the end of the game. And you get to go up 1 on the track of whatever this is. So there's 3 different types of tracks of goods, and this is olives here. So he would go up 1 on the olive track, because that's what this card had on it. So let's say the yellow player grabs this one for 5. He doesn't get anything leftover change. And then this player, let's say he grabs this. Now these don't get refilled, so again, sometimes people might not be able to grab a card if they are on the track. Now the Senate track, the bidding works the same, but how you resolve it's different. Instead of a values of these buying certain things, each die can just take one of these. So this guy had the lowest number, so he's gonna go first. He can actually take any 2 he wants. Let's just say, he takes this and this. And then this player maybe takes this, and this player takes this. And you can see how if this player had 2 die, this guy would have been left without 1 to take. Now what these Senator cards do is during the rounds, you get to try to activate their abilities. If you have a senator whose icon matches one of the provinces that you've already got, and it's in front of you, you can place this card on top of it and activate his ability for this round, but only one senator can go on one thing, and some of them you need multiple things to activate. But in this case, you could actually re-roll any of your unplaced dice. Or if you activated this guy, the senator, you can take one of your dice that's already placed and take it down one value. So there's different ways to break the rules of the games with these senators, just basically special abilities. And the last track, the black market, works similar to the first track, where the amount of the total value of your dice, you can buy certain things for these costs. The other players already spent all their dice. I'm the only one here, but I only have 2 to spend. So I could buy this guy, or this guy. Let's just say we take this one here, and that would be the end of this phase. Since you only score in rounds 3 and 5, we would not score right now. We'd go to the next round and we'd do some cleanup. So if you had senators that were, being used, basically you would separate these out. All the cards that were not taken this round would get out of the game, and you put all new ones, and essentially we would start over again. Now, how do you score? In rounds 3 and 5, there's scoring. Let's go however that works. First, we do forum scoring. We look at these different resources, and each person's going to score. You're going to score 1 point for having at least one of a good, and then you're going to get 1 point for every player you're ahead of. So this player blue, he has at least 1, so that's 1 point. And he's ahead of 2, so he would get 3 points for this. Where all these guys would each get 1 point because they're all even, but they all have at least 1. In here, purple would get 1 for having 1, 2, 3. He'd get 3 points for that. So you get more for being ahead of people and 1 for having at least 1. Now in that previous scoring, some of the senators' special abilities can actually enact during scoring as well. And then here, simultaneously, everyone's going to play at least 3 of their black market, character cards to try to put together like some poker type hands. Any 3 cards is a point. Any 3 different cards is 2 points. One of a kind of each of the different kinds is 3 points. 3 diverse beasts or 3 different barbarians, 4. Battle Royals, 2 different barbarians plus any 3 Romans is 5. So you'd get those points depending on the type of show you put on, and the one who put on the best show also gets an additional point. Now you would score that same way at the end of the 5th round as well, but then at the end of the game, this map gets used for endgame scoring. We go to each of the different colored areas and we look at the different provinces. Yellow owns this one that's worth 9, purple owns this one that's worth 7. This player has a better province score, so they would essentially score this. Now the player with the highest gets 2 points, and then in case of a tie, basically you both get 1. Now, if somebody controlled all of them in the region, let's say this guy had both, they get 3 points instead of 2. And you do that for all the provinces. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Well, there's Rome Rise to Power. Let me first talk about the things that I liked about the game. The best thing by far is that dice bidding mechanism that it sounds like Elad Goldstein, the designer here, sort of created himself. And I really did like that. I like the aspect of when you put a die, if it's lower than the lowest of, that left die, if somebody you can get in there first, which in a lot of cases is really important. But then as you add dice, it has to be, equal or lower than that die. So you can go with low dice, but you have to use a lot of your dice to try to get enough buying power in some of those tracks. So it really going last or going after people really helps in this game because you're really trying to see what they're going for, and you've got dice, and I like the ways that you can manipulate those dice using some of the senator abilities and things like that. So the dice mechanism is really cool. And I also like how some of the tracks act differently. Some of the times you're adding up the dice for purchasing power, and others you're just like, well, it doesn't matter. 1 for each dice, you're just grabbing those senators. And I think that's sort of the main part of the game. It's actually the part I liked the most. Now, overall production values, the artwork's great. The board's a little small, but it's okay because it doesn't get used that much. The only complaint I have with the board is the scoring track is really too small. They're tiny. I mean, if you have more than 1 player on a certain spot, even with stacked, they kind of overlap on other numbers. It's easy to mess up the score, which is tough because the score is usually pretty low anyway in this game. So anyway, as I dive deeper into the mechanisms, I like that dice drafting, and everything seems to fit, right? I mean, you're going up these, you're trying to figure out do I go up different tracks to try to get more points for the different goods, or do I concentrate on certain provinces and regions? Do I try to just get them all and try to get the extra bonus points at the end of the game for that? Do I go for putting on the best show? There's lots of different things that you can go for, and maybe depending on what you've rolled, you kind of might steer you towards what you want. Overall, though, I mean, for me, other than the dice drafting thing I liked, the dice placement and bidding, the rest of the game for me was just okay. Cool. You get senators. If you match that icon with another icon of a province, you can activate a special ability, maybe use it. But overall, yeah, they help you break the rules, maybe change dice, maybe, mess with scoring and stuff. But overall, it didn't really knock my socks off. For me, it was okay. It wasn't a bad game. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it either. For me, it was really just average for me. I probably won't be talking about this, and I probably won't be playing it too much after this. But it's not bad. I've watched, my buddy, I have a podcast with Sam Healy, and he was raving about this game. And that's great. I'm glad to see that people do love this game for what it is. But for me, it was okay. The dice placement was cool, but everything else was just nothing to write home about. So everything sort of fits. I didn't see any problems with the game, and everything was okay. But again, okay does not separate you from the thousands of games that come out every year. Not bad, but not great. That's Rome Rise to Power.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter, making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.